as we've seen this Mercury retrograde end, Mercury has stationed in the middle of Cancer, squaring with Saturn in the middle of Aries. Keeping in mind that Saturn is also, similar to Mercury, moving at its very slowest, because just as Mercury stations direct to move forward, Saturn is stationing retrograde to move backward in Aries. So there's this cardinal clash energy that is really sticky sometimes, and it can be very frustrating. It can create outbursts, it can create emotional just eruptions. I'm getting a lot of volcano energy talking about this, but there's also something about it that it's kind of like getting you to see what the actual root truth is behind why you are stuck, behind why your life hasn't fully taken to that next timeline yet. It's not that you're not in the new timeline, because I feel like for many of you guys you are. It's just that something about this retrograde, it almost ran the new timeline you're on like parallel with the old timeline, and it got really close, and it was almost like maybe I should just jump ship and go back, because like this is what I know, and maybe I should just like not. Yeah, I don't know, but I feel like there's been this kind of exchange moment too, where it's like, but there's certain things from your past that you need to remember and that you do need to bring with you. It's just that you don't need to stay in the same loop of like the mistakes and the less evolved, less conscious behavior. That's what you don't need to take with you. But there were still things about that era of your life that are important. Even if you're not repeating them, it's like lessons that you shouldn't forget, And so that's why I feel like this retrograde, maybe it was really emotionally triggering for some, and just kind of feeling you're being edged by the universe a little bit, like you're getting really close to a breakthrough, or you're getting really close to like, again, that next timeline taking, but it's like it feels like it's competing with the old thing that's trying to still take over. And I think that's what's actually the illusion here, is that the old is not trying to take over. It's coming in to test you and to also teach you and reteach you some of these lessons that maybe became a little bit out of sight or out of mind, but are still very much there, as well as like problems that maybe you've put on the back burner and just were like, I'll deal with that later. But it's like, it's still here until you deal with it. The trash is still stinking up the house until you take it out. And it's almost that simple. And that's where I think this retrograde did have a simplicity about it. And of course, there was also all of those layers, and there was a lot going on. It wasn't just all simple, but like when it comes to the resolution about some of these dilemmas, it does have a simple approach, even if it's very layered in terms of what we're dealing with. Does that make sense? And I think what's simple about it is that we're getting back into a primal, instinctual way of loving and caring about each other, where it's balanced, right? It's not just like, oh, we only love and tend to the things that we know we're going to get something out of. It's like in general, and it's almost like because of that, you pick and choose certain things, and then I don't know, but then you might miss opportunities because you're just like trying to predict what the outcome is going to be, and you're not focusing on the internal alignment. And so I think that there's a shift where it's like, I'm not just gonna operate in a transactional way anymore. I'm going to just pour out this love energy, even if I don't know for a fact it will be returned to me. And I'm just going to trust my gut feeling on things. So sometimes we have to kind of have more of a guard up because we can sense the situation isn't safe for us energetically to be super expressive emotionally, or there's boundaries and limits, of course, and Saturn is going to remind us of that every single time. And especially this month with the way the retrograde ends, it's this really stark reminder of like, you can't swing so far the other way either, where like you're just over giving because you're not giving anything to you, right? So there has to be this balance piece. And that's kind of how we like went into this month of July. We came off of that full moon in Capricorn, and the missing link of that T-square was the sign of Libra. And actually the moon is in Libra today as I'm speaking, which means that the only cardinal sign that's missing out on the action today is Capricorn. But in general, you know, since the Capricorn full moon, we haven't had anything in Capricorn or Libra. So I feel like as we observe this square right now between Mercury and Saturn, yeah, it might not be exact, but to me, it's a very hard hitting square because they're moving so slow. And also, you know, like, we're about to go into the eclipses. So like a lot of these reckoning moments and these realization moments are like big nuggets of information that really change the course of things, right? And might even give us a different perspective on the past as well. It's not just about the future, because time is not linear, as we know, but that's a whole other video. What I was saying about these two signs of Libra and Capricorn is that I feel like we can embody these zodiac signs to mitigate some of the frustrating effects of this square of Cancer and Saturn, because it can get sticky, it can get a little bit ugly. Like it's like a good old ugly cry, you know, or like when a toddler's throwing a temper tantrum and they're all red in the face and they're snotty and they're yelling, and it's like it's a lot going on right now, and that's coming up to the surface. And I feel like at the same time, we really feel like from Saturn, we have to keep it all together. But it's like the more that we try to keep it all together and just be like, just shut it down. It's fine. I got this. It's like the more that it's like, am I though? Am I? So that's where I think that like this balancing, this stabilizing, this grounding work is so crucial right now to pay attention to Libra and Capricorn. Like Libra is all about, you know, the missing piece might not be so much like what you're doing or not doing. It might be more so who you know or who you're talking to. Like if you connect with the right person, they might be able to unlock the door for you rather than you just jamming every single key that you can find. Like you're on Mission Impossible at that point, right? You need to talk to the right person. It's again, it's that simple, but it's also like, well, who's the right person? So there's like, it's this and that, right? This and that. That's what this whole like Mars and Gemini transit has been about. This and that, this and that. And Mars is going to go into Cancer. Oh gosh, I have to look at the date now because I forget, but it's coming up, you know. But for right now, it feels like we've been a little bit like, well, I have to go here, but then I have to go there. And that's the only way that I can get things done, is if I kind of vacillate in and out of worlds rather than just being like fully focused and strategic and directional. It's become apparent if we are lacking that strategy, right? And I think both Libra and Capricorn are like probably the most strategic signs of the whole zodiac, right? Libra and Capricorn both like to have a plan going into things. They like to know what they're going to say. You know, there's like this kind of energy, like they like to have everything put on the table, make it very clear, you know, let's do business the right way kind of vibe. And so anything that that's been trying to like kind of bend the rules or like that's very subjective, I feel like it's like that approach just doesn't feel like it's strong anymore. And maybe that's also a symptom of Saturn in Aries as well, is like we see that there's, how do I say this? It's like, as much as it's good for us to be empowered to do things on our own and to have our own thing going on, our own opinions, our own lives, whatever, there's also something about other stakeholders being involved that makes the operation more solidified or like more real in a way. Like it's almost like if only you know about something or only you are working on something, that layer of accountability, of collaboration is missing. And I think about that fact of life where like if you have two individual horses pulling loads, they can actually pull a lot more if they are combining their strength. Like the actual weight they can pull is more than just individually what it adds up to. It's even more because there's something like psychologically about doing something side by side when you both have the same goal and intention. And that's the key, because I think that before we've gone through experiences where we thought we were going to be in that kind of like co-pilot situation, like we're both doing this, but we just realized that like the person next to us was just kind of dragging their feet and wasn't really trying to, or maybe they wanted to break free and they wanted to go do their own thing. You know, it just, there was something that just wasn't aligning for us when it came to finding the right partnerships. And I'm not just speaking about like romantic partnerships, I'm speaking about all types of partnerships, friendships, business relationships, family relationships. It just feels like across the board, there was like a bit of like this I don't want to say unnecessary, but that's almost what I said, because it feels like now we can look back in retrospect and be like, oh, I was struggling unnecessarily there. I could have just asked for help, right? And that's where this village mentality comes in, and it's super important for us to just kind of remember that, like, yeah, like you don't, like, I know that things have been emotionally dense lately. This has been a very emotionally dense Cancer season. But like there's no shame in like being honest about that. Instead of trying to like hide it or act like everything's fine, or just like, right? Because that's the temptation sometimes with Saturn, is just like, suck it up, bootstrap, let's keep it moving. Like, and sometimes you do have to kind of do that in life, but there's also these moments where you have to admit, like, hey, I can keep going, but at some point I'm gonna need to replace this because it's not really working for me, right? And it's like the sooner that we can have that honest assessment of things, the sooner that we can work toward removing and gutting out anything that's like slowing us down. And I think especially emotional attachments at this time is relevant. And you can also be emotionally attached to the right person or to the right, like, it doesn't mean the object of your attachment is wrong. It just means the way that you're attached could sometimes be a little bit enmeshed, or it's like reflective of a scarcity, codependent, trauma bonding kind of thing, rather than it coming from a place of like symbiosis and like true health. And I feel like Capricorn and Libra want us to kind of look at that, of like, how can we truly live and coexist symbiotically to build and to grow over time, right? And it's like the more that you are consistent and the more that you show up and the more that you're clear with yourself and others in communication of what's going on, the more you kind of get into this like workflow where it's like, oh, okay, so if I keep pruning this every single day rather than just letting it get really out of hand and only doing it every once in a while, it makes my job so much easier, and it also makes my harvest so much more abundant. And I feel like if you have been in a bit of like a procrastinator energy, like that is ending. This Mercury retrograde, now it's wrapping up. It's like the Cancer soupy sticky energies. It's like, it's almost like summer vacations coming to an end, right? And I'm not saying summer itself, but that summer vacation energy of like, let's just kind of float around and see what happens. That spelunking through the underground caves to see what we might unearth, right? It's like, if you haven't figured it out yet, like I'm sure you've already collected a lot of items, right? I'm sure you've already made a lot of discoveries in this time. But you're about to come back up. You're about to like resurface. I'm seeing someone's head like pop up above the water and be like, what did I miss? Because you've been in a very deep dive, let me tell you. And I think you're coming out, you're emerging from this time of like feeling like, yeah, Saturn has really cut out my work for me. And I feel like with all of this Leo energy that I'm ready to really, like, I'm not as afraid anymore. I have more courage now to be perceived, to be myself, to be out and about in the world doing things and not be so afraid of like what could possibly backfire. And maybe that's a fear because you felt like there were some things during the retrograde that did backfire, or that you observed, like you were thinking about a lot from a past perspective of like, oh, I'm thinking about the past and how this backfired. And you might be going through a situation right now where either for you or someone else, you're watching something unfold and you just feel like this is about to backfire. This is about to backfire. This is about to backfire. And you're kind of like waiting for that moment. But I feel like the universe now is kind of saying like, unhook from that. Because if if that's your trajectory and you are on that path of knowing that this is about to backfire, then you still have time to get off that path, my friend. You know what I mean? You still have time to stop fueling the fire, right? You have time now to take some of that pressure away so that it does not backfire. And I feel like someone needs to hear this message right now, because the eclipse is coming up next month. It's literally less than a month out from when we have the first eclipse, with the new moon in Leo, which will be our first eclipse in Leo of this series. So it is kind of a big deal. We did have that new moon in Aquarius eclipse back in February. So this is the opposite of that, right? And so this eclipse is going to, I think, again, of the sun card with Leo energy, it is really going to reveal people's true colors. And so if you're dealing with people where you don't like the way that they're moving, you feel like it's shady, you don't like this, you don't like that, like, there's still time to pull out. There's still time to, you don't have to keep like going toward disaster here, right? So there's this kind of tough love energy, but very much like protected energy at the same time, that I feel like is guiding this collective right now to get to the business and really prioritize what is meaningful and what matters to them, and not what someone else is telling you should matter, right? And that could, again, the Saturn authority thing could be triggering for some people. And I do really feel like you guys are taking matters into your own hands right now. You're like, okay, so this is the way it's going to be. Then this is what I'm going to do. This is the plan. And I just feel like in the past, it might have been harder for you to do that because there was a lot of this going on, like distraction energy, illusions, smoke and mirrors. And you maybe also were not at the place where your intuition was as strong to sniff that out right away. But because you've gone through ego deaths, because you've gone through these moments where you've had to see that sometimes you really want things not because they're actually what's good for you, but because it's going to feed that kind of inner beast. I feel like a lot of you guys have been shedding that and have been like working on your relationship with that energy, because it's always going to be a part of our human nature. Like, we can't fully like outgrow it no matter how evolved we are, but we can tame it. I think about the strength card in the deck. But I think now we're at a place where, like, even if we really want to believe something, we're not gonna believe it until it really does feel aligned and makes sense. Like, we're not gonna force something to be true just because we want it to be true. And so I think that's why right now, for anyone who's watching this video, you're a lot more conscious of the clowns. Like, that clowning energy, other people might be fooled, but you can just see it a mile away. And I think it started too in this heavy reflection of the retrograde with thinking about times in which you have been wandering down the rabbit hole. And again, it's like going down that path that's only going to backfire, that's only going to disillusion you. And actually, Indigo Witty was the one who had said it best about this Mercury retrograde in Cancer. She's a very popular astrologer on TikTok, and she also has YouTube content and Instagram content as well. But she was talking about how Alice in Wonderland is kind of the metaphor for this retrograde. There's a lot of this like rabbit hole, like it can be easy to just kind of dive into that because it feels like everything else is so in your face or it's so intense that to take a little break from it and to just kind of go along with this instead, it feels like a welcomed escape. But one thing about Neptune this month, because I think Neptune also stationed retrograde this month, but Neptune's also been very active in Aries too, right? It's kind of shown us that like we don't have to F around and find out. We already know, like we've done this a million times. We already know what this kind of slimy, sleazy energy leads to. You don't really get what you want in the end. So I feel like the universe has kind of, whatever path you were going down, like maybe you were in talks about something or a big decision or like, I don't know, like maybe this was also like a relationship that was starting to develop, or it doesn't have to, like, it can also just be like a narrative, like a certain narrative that you were going along with or that you believed in. And then it was like all of a sudden this retrograde hit, and actually the way the universe got you to slow down was by bringing up certain emotions that were uncomfortable for you. And in feeling those emotions, it actually activated a new level of your intuition, because maybe in the past you would have just shut those emotions down. You would have suppressed them. You would have found some sort of way to just get them out of you and not really think about it until they came back again the next time. And then that's how the loop goes, right? But something about this retrograde, I'm just getting a lot of energy of like disrupting patterns, like disrupting deeply ingrained patterns, but also feeling like, even though that's a good thing, I'm disrupting this, it's almost like, well, now what? Now what do I do, right? And that's kind of how I think this retrograde ends, with Mercury squaring Saturn. It's like, who's making the rules here, right? Because I feel this unspoken pressure to get things together, but I feel like I'm the one that I'm answering to at the same time. Like, because I just feel like the people who are making the rules, I just don't agree with how they're, like, I don't know. It's just, the world's on fire, you know, like everything that we've known, like all of our government, our structure, like just the tradition, like a lot of it we're seeing wasn't actually rooted in the true tradition, right? It was like the Matrix tradition, which wasn't actually a tradition at all. It was the illusion of tradition that we just thought, this is the way life works. This is the way society is. You clock in, you go to work 9 to 5, and, you know, like you just do your best to survive. Like that was a survival paradigm, right? And that was sold to us so much as like, this is just the way that life works. But I feel like just the past decade, especially the past 5 years, 5 to 7 years, like it's just been, there's so many cracks that just keep forming, and it's like inevitable that at some point this whole thing is just gonna shatter. And so it's almost like the emperor's clothes story. Like if you're looking at that emperor still and you're still saying, yeah, I see the clothes, like you're the one who's gonna end up looking like a fool. So just speak up now, because you already know the truth. It's just that you're allowing your mind to play a trick on you, because you're bending the knee to what you think is giving you access to power, but it's actually not giving you any access to power. It's actually keeping you disempowered. I hope that made sense. I know these retrograde messages have been like, they've been deep, they've been getting at a lot, but they've been thick and dense, and so it can feel like we're kind of like dispersed a lot in how we're speaking on things. But yeah, this is pretty much where things are right now. If you do feel overwhelmed with that, like what's next energy, I would say take a piece of advice from Venus and Virgo, and just start with the small things. Like don't focus so much on these huge manifestations right now. Just focus on the little things and how you're feeling and going about them, and how they are supporting your life or not. And if they're not supporting your life, then rearrange them or get rid of them. But do something, keep things in motion, and keep that cycle of like, yes, it's input, output, right? Like it's good to bring new things into your life. It's good when you can have the money to buy things you need. It's good when even things money can't buy, you have the ability to attract them. But in attracting these things, it's gonna also require you to make room for them. So I feel like Venus and Virgo at this time is asking you to do a lot of decluttering work. And maybe this will continue into the eclipse portal and through Virgo season this year. Like maybe we're just kind of getting started with some of that. But I think that what's exciting is that we see that as we commit to that process, as unglamorous and as not fun as it can be, we start to see that our magnetism increases. We become that much more of a magnet. And so it's that much easier for us to keep adding new things to our collection, right? And so it motivates us to keep up with things. It's kind of like when you're on a diet plan and an exercise plan and you start seeing it work, you start seeing the results. Like first you start feeling better, right? So that motivates you, but then you start seeing the results and it's just like, wow, this really works. This discipline thing, not so shabby, you know, it really does work. The consistency thing, it really does work. And so I feel like right now it's like, if that's the thing that works, then that's the thing that works. And all the other stuff, it will fall into place when it's ready and when it's ripe. But you don't need to, I heard, don't go chasing waterfalls, just stick to the rivers and the you used to. Or nothing at all. Moving too fast. I don't know the whole song, but that's kind of the vibe of this Mercury retrograde. Don't go chasing waterfalls, because if you try to jump the gun, if you try to like beat the clock right now, you're gonna run into another problem that you don't need. So just please just see the slowdown, as frustrating as it can be, and as much as it might confuse you, like, am I doing the right thing? Please just see it as a divine protection, because what's coming next, and I don't want to spoil the next episode, but this is what we're going to talk about next time, is this energy of when the underdog becomes the big dog. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say. You guys can interpret that as you wish for now, but we'll break it down more next time. And that message is going to have to do more with the Leo energies. So I feel like in this episode, we did discuss a little bit about the Leo energies, but next time I really want to dive deeper into the Jupiter-Pluto opposition, because in these next few days we're having a Jupiter Cazimi, which means the sun is meeting up with Jupiter and therefore also opposing Pluto as we transition into Leo season. So there is like a little bit of a vibe shift coming up, and this was kind of an episode to like wrap up what's been going on, because it's almost been hard to like put it into words. And even this video, it's very long now because I've been trying my best to like get all of these last minute points, not last minute because I'm not in a rush, but these like final downloads from the retrograde. But I also have to remember that we still have the post retrograde, so we'll still probably be talking about these themes, but just know that they're going to take on maybe a bit of a new application of like, okay, we're still talking about the deep dive, emotional, past, reflective, intuitive, spiritual, creative work, but like with the Leo energy, it's going to really push us to live that out loud and live in the light, live in the spotlight, which is not always easy, right? So again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but that's where we're headed from this point, just so you guys have an idea, okay? I love you guys so much. I am sending everyone just a lot of peace and harmony as we wrap up the retrograde energies and we transition into the eclipse energies. But before we get into the eclipse energies, we're also going to we have one more lunation, that full moon in Aquarius at the end of the month. So we'll probably start speaking a little bit about that next time too. And yeah. So, okay, that's it for real. Peace and love. Bye.